Hi everyone, and welcome to Billy Fitzgerald Golf. And I want to talk about how do we make better contact from tight lies as we get closer to the green. I know for a lot of us, we tend to tighten up a little bit. It's not our favorite shot. It's really easy to hit it thin. It's easy to hit it fat. We have a lot of doubt in our mind once we get a lie like this. We'd rather not be here. We'd almost rather be, a full swing away, maybe 100, 120 yards. I've got about 50 yards here. So how do we use this to our advantage? We feel like we want to be closer to the hole, so we have a little bit more control, but once we get close to the hole and it's a tight lie, it's actually a good lie, but for some of us, we'd rather be in the rough once we get closer to the hole. And I totally understand that. So let me show you a way that may help you clean up your wedge game once you get closer to the hole. So the first thing that we have to remember is that I think for a lot of us, we're trying to hit the ball too much, and you're trying to hit it with your arms. And anytime you're only using your arms and not a pivot, which we'll get to, but it makes your arms a little tight. And so a lot of stuff starts moving around and you start to get a little tight in your arms, and it's easy to hit it fat or thin. So trust me, more of us are there than are not. So the very first thing I want to go over is ball position. So a lot of us play the ball really far back to make sure that we hit ball first. Again, I get that. The problem with that is that if we get all the way back here, because of where our low point is in the swing, if we get too far back on our toe, the club is coming in steep. While it can be done, you just have to make sure that the club is low enough to the ground if you're going to play it way off your back toe. And so what I mean is, as I swing the club, my bottom out point is right in the middle of my stance. So if you're going to play it back, which is good, because we want to hit ball first and we want the ball to be on the downward part of our swing circle, I'd say probably a ball or two just right of center. Once we get it going, back by our toe or even farther back, it's okay once we get closer to the green and there's not a big swing involved, but it can be a little bit too steep. Step number 2, how we set up is a little bit different because we don't have this big weight transfer. You're going to feel like you're going to pivot around your left leg. So when I get closer to the green, I need my shoulders to level out. So because my right hand is lower on the club than my left, my right shoulder tends to hang down. And so as I get too far low to the ground, as this shoulder gets down too far low to the ground, this right arm has to retract so I don't hit it fat. That's one of the problems in the setup. So we want to feel like when you get left, because this shot is going to be played from primarily your left leg, you want to feel like you tilt a little bit to the left so your head goes left to the ball and then down. So an easy way to feel that is to go, if I stand my club up this way and go left foot, right toe, see, that's one way for me to get left. Okay, the other way that I was taught a long time ago to get left is weight forward. Okay, but then what that does to my shoulders, it tilts my shoulders, my right shoulder goes down to the ground and my eyes go behind the ball. So it's asking me really to see my bottom out point starting to go back here. So you don't want to be behind the ball, you want to go left of it. So again, we hit ball first on the way down. Secondly, once we get set up, so we've got ball position, our posture's a little bit better. Again, we're going to go back to that left foot, right toe. When I'm hitting these shots and I get close to the green, basically, this is what I'm feeling. I'm pivoting right around my left leg. I don't want any part of getting back into my right side, because again, it tilts my shoulders and makes my head go back, and now my bottom out point is going to be way before the ball, and I got to figure out how to get the face on the ball. It's too complicated to do that. So do yourself a favor and go left foot, right toe, and make some swings and start to feel how this left hip is going to pivot. And that's what we're going to get into next, is that how the pivot allows your arms to stay soft. Instead of me trying to feel like I swing back and just swing through, see, that tightens my arms up. I want to play with the momentum of the golf club. Okay, so my left hip has a lot to do with this. So I'll go face on and then down the line so you can see how it's a reactionary to my pivot, what my golf club does to keep my arms soft. So it's a lot like the full swing, because it allows us to get the club to shallow out. So once I get once I get set up, and another thing that I see a lot is opening your stance. So which puts my right hip into the ball. Again, I need all that room that I can get. So I don't want to feel like I've got a closed stance. Again, just feel like your stance is square. You know, a lot of people would benefit even from a slightly closed stance. It pulls their right hip back so their arm has room to swing. So we're just going to go from a square stance. I'm going to get my hands on the club right. Now as I swing back and I start to transition, okay? So I'm going to go right from my leg. So I'm pivoting around my leg, and as the club starts to go back, I start to pivot, which puts my right arm, it puts a little bit of cup in my right arm, and it puts a little bend in my elbow. So I have this angle of attack that looks very similar, again, very similar to where we want to be at impact with a full swing. You know, a lot of the properties and tendencies that we need in the full swing, they show up in your short game. In other words, I wouldn't want to feel like my full swing is there at impact, and then we get into the short game and my right arm doesn't match up with the shaft. No, with every shot, I want my arm to be lining up with the shaft. So the motion is, as I swing back, and even before this golf club has reached its transition point, I feel like I've got a little pivot in this left hip. So this left hip is pushing away, and my hip pushes away, and what that does to the shaft in the face of the club is it shallows the face out. So the club actually gets a little lower to the ground. It puts my right arm in a really good impact position, and now I can control the face of the club much better. I think one of the very first things to being a better wedge player is learning how to control your distances. For most people that I see, the only thing they get their wedge in their hand, and the only thing they can do is hit it straight up in the air, which is, you know, obviously a very high launch. When you want to be able to launch your wedge low, that's how you control it. A rule of thumb I would say is that only hit the golf ball, especially when you get around the greens, high if you have to. You know, if we have to use the how the ball comes into the green or the angle of descent to stop the ball, which most of us do. You know, that's a different story. But from here, I have a good lie. I can spin it if I can get it on the face, if I can shallow it out and get my arms a little bit softer. So again, from down the line, we're gonna go lean left, ball positions just right of center. As I swing back, my left hip pivots. Again, it pivots away from the ball, and it puts my right arm in this position right here. So I feel like I've got a little bend in my elbow, and I've got a little cup in my wrist. That's how I'm maybe de-lofting the face a little bit so I can get my launch angle a little bit lower so I can control this golf ball a little more. So again, if I make some swings, I start to feel as my hip socket starts to go back, it puts a little cup in my wrist, and I feel like the mass of the club almost gets a little bit behind my hands, so it will shallow the club out for me. So as I pivot, and as my left hip moves through the shot, now I've got the momentum. That's really the gas of the golf club going through the shot. So I don't have to feel like I hit it with my arms so much. So again, from face on, as I swing back, I feel my pivot go. You can see it puts that angle in my wrist here, which is lag. It gives me a little lag in the club. So the first one I'll hit low. Again, just right of center. So my arms are very soft. You can see I'm not really taking a divot here. We got the bounce of the club here. Get ready to go. Again, lean left, swing back. And again, made very good contact and didn't take a divot because the club was able to shallow out through my pivot. And so now all of a sudden, this doesn't become so scary because my arms can be a little bit softer, and as I pivot, see my right shoulder is able to stay up and I'm not driving down with my arms. So again, I'll hit this one a little higher. Now as I start to play with the launch of the golf ball and the trajectory of it, it's just how my wrists are relative to my wrist relative to my knuckles here. So as I swing, this would be low, this would be high, or this would be low, this would be medium, this would be a little bit higher. So that's the only thing that I'm doing to put the trajectory in a little different order with this swing. So now this one will go a little bit higher. So I'll feel like I catch the face up a little bit with my wrist. And get ready to go. Swing back. Get my tilt ready. And so that landed a little softer, went a little higher. Okay, one more with my trajectory, and now I'll hit this one medium, so it's not going to go so high this time. So again, all I'm doing is controlling the face here. Just right of center, lean left. I'm going to pivot. So same distance, different trajectory. And again, I'm almost doing no damage to the turf. Not once did I stick the club into the ground, not once did I thin it. And that's a huge part in wedge plays. You've got to get consistent with your reaction to the ground. And I think using your pivot, your setup is a big factor in what we're doing. But using the pivot in your front hip to soften your arms and feel like you play with momentum, so you can just let the club go into the golf ball pretty much on its own with momentum, so you're not trying to feel like you hit it. It takes the hit out of the wedge, and it cleans up, as you can see, it cleans up tremendously the strike. So now you can concentrate on yardage and height factor, trajectory, how you're going to land it, how you're going to spin it, instead of just trying to make clean contact and getting the shot over with. So I know this is going to help you. You're not going to be afraid to get up closer to the green, and you're going to take advantage and get up and down a lot more in your golf game. I know this is going to help. Go out and have some fun with this, and good luck. Like and subscribe to my channel, Billy Fitzgerald Golf. Want to take a live lesson from me, or you have a question? Visit me at billyfitzgeraldgolf.com. And thanks for watching.